Yo YouTube! Today it is Friday the 8th of March, and at the end of today's video I shall tell you a captivating story of intrigue and high drama that ended my day. So look forward to that when that comes. At the start of my day, I woke up having had not a great night's sleep in the back of my van in an Asda car park in Corby. And I was 4 minutes away from my pickup location. I woke up at 7, which should be there for 8:30. And I arrived at around about 8 o'clock. And I wasn't quite sure whether they'd be ready for me. It's the first time I've done this job. It was a pickup from Corby, from a distribution centre, a very large one, but it was well managed, I must say, going to Kettering, so only 15 minutes away by van. And I was then going to go back to Corby and do a second run of a total of 5 pallets, is what I was told. So when I arrived, I had to sign at the gatehouse, and I had enough information on my CX to give the gatehouse. They knew what I was there for, and they got me onto the end bay very quickly. When I arrived there, the forklift driver was waiting. There was a couple of people in the warehouse bringing the pallets out on pump trucks. And I was relieved to see that they were quite light. They were cardboard boxes stacked onto pallets, wooden pallets, and cellophane down quite securely. So I was worried if I had 3 very heavy pallets, how it was going to fit on my van. I mean, it will fit spatially, but just moving around can be a bit awkward because it's not a lot of space. But it was fine. So I got 3 pallets on, 2 pallets which are sort of larger ones, and then 1 small one at the back. The only incident here was that the forklift driver, rather than putting 1 pallet on my side door, which is what I thought he was going to do, he put all 3 on the back door, just pushed them down. And because he did that, I had to sort of negotiate my spare wheel, and before I got to it, it made a bit of a dent in the bottom box. So I got to stop, pulled the pallet to one side with my strap, and then he pushed it on to the back of the van. So I made my way to Kettering, and again at the other end, I've not been there before. It's quite a big warehouse, but it's clearly labelled. I arrived and rang the bell, and then the lady came out with the forklift. I asked her name. She was very friendly. Her name was Anita, and then she got the pallets off, and I felt that I had to explain to her that one of the pallets was damaged. I could have just ignored it and sort of moved on. So as she took off the last pallet, which obviously was the first one put onto my van, I just said, "Can you just hang on? I'll just show you this bit of damage." And we had a look, and luckily, because the wooden, the cardboard boxes had been quite securely cellophaned, it kind of the boxes regained their shape. So rather than being like a tyre shape in the box, basically you couldn't tell at all there's any change at all. And she said to me, "Oh, it's alright, there's any straps inside these things." So I was, and the reason why I say that is I realised that trying to hide those things would just niggle my brain, niggle my mind. I would feel guilty and it wouldn't go away. If I just tell someone I've noticed there's a bit of damage, 9 times out of 10 it's not an issue, and every time I say it out loud, out of my head, it doesn't then bother me. It's gone, it's escaped my brain, it doesn't cause me any issues. And I think there's a lot to be said for someone like me with my brain, just getting those worries out, whether it's writing them down or talking about them or verbalising them on your own. So I definitely once I've done that, I felt much more at ease with the whole situation. So then I went back to Corby. I knew where I was going, I knew the process. Called in the gatehouse, told them I was back. went back in, got the last 2 pellet pallets, then back to Kettering. So it's a really nice job. It was I finished. By the time I finished in Kettering the second time, it was 9:40, and I had done the 5 pallets for a total of £85. It's a long wheelbase job. Miles wise, it's probably in the region of, I guess here, probably let's say 30 miles loaded, something like that. I'm guessing a bit. So probably it wouldn't be any more than 40. So probably at least £2 a mile for that. So it's good money for that. Yeah, so I was pleased about that first start. And I was finished before 10 o'clock looking for another job, which was really good. So now I was in Kettering, which I thought, I've never been in Kettering on work before, but I do know it's a good area to get work. And I remember distinctly, this is about 10 o'clock, there were jobs from Peterborough, there were jobs from Huntingdon, jobs from Rugby, Northampton. There wasn't anything from Corby or Kettering, and I was smack bang in this almost like a dead zone. There's no jobs coming up everywhere around me. Within half an hour or 45 minutes away of me, there was jobs, and I noticed that, and I thought that's weird. But maybe it's just because I'm desperate for a job at the moment. But I did win a job, and I went a bit lower than I usually would do. It was for a small, short wheelbase van. It was a minimum price job. It was from Rugby to Loughborough. Now I was about half an hour, about 25 miles away from Rugby, and I got the call at 5 to 10. So it was quite quick after I started bidding, and I sort of learnt that if I put on a slightly lower bid, I was hoping to win quicker work. And my idea today was, I'd done the £85, it was 10 o'clock, near 10 o'clock, put some bids on, try and get another job quickly, and then see where the day takes me. So £45 is what I put on, and I got the job pretty quickly. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say at this point, I got 5 jobs within 10 minutes. Within that time I was waiting there, sort of 10 minutes bidding, there were 5 jobs within half an hour of my home address. And there's never usually that many jobs in the morning coming from where I live. And it's like suddenly I'm an hour away and I can't get those jobs. But if I was at home tonight, I'll be getting some really juicy jobs. This morning I mean. And it was just weird how it panned out. So from that, I basically made the assumption that because it's a Friday, there's going to be plenty of work today. So that's when I got the quick call for the £45 job. I thought, yeah, but I probably need to not worry about pricing today, because I bet there's going to be plenty of work. But it seems like it's going well today. Anyway, I stuck to the £45. I drove to Rugby, and I was collecting from if I say a disorganised, a well-renowned disorganised distribution centre that deals with residential parcels more than industrial parcels. You will know who I'm talking about. And I was dreading going there because I've not been to this particular depot before. I've been to other ones, and they're always, as I said, disorganised. Now, when I first arrived, I went to the gatehouse. I was behind a couple of liveried vans for this place. And the gatehouse person was really friendly and polite, and realised I was new to site and was really clear with her instructions. And I remember that being really pleasant. So I thought, what's a good start? It was a really massive site. When I entered the corner, I was at bay 185, and all down one side were just bays. And I think by the time I got to the other end, it must have been something like 90. So probably in the region of 90 bays across that one side. driving it down at 10 miles an hour, my hazards on, just bay after bay after bay, and there's loads of lorries parked up. It wasn't just empty bays. So we got to the bay that I was expecting to go to, I was told to go to, and then I saw another driver there with a Luton waiting. So I just checked whether he was a driver or whether he were there, and he said he was a driver, and he was waiting for some pallets. So obviously he was first, so I was expecting him to be loaded first, which he was. But we couldn't find anyone to help us, either of us, with the load. He said he'd been there and they'd been told they were on lunch break or coffee break. So we went. He went in and I went in another direction. We both found people. He found an every person, and I found somebody else that works there, but with a different company. So it appears that people I was talking to were people that have a recycling business running out of the same building. So in the end, the reason why I mentioned the delay is I didn't get off site. I arrived on the site at about 10 o'clock, maybe 10 past 10, and I didn't leave site until 10 past 11. And I did have a bit of a chat to the guy with the Luton. I had a look at his Luton, and I remember saying yesterday I wouldn't want a Luton, and I stand by that to some extent. But actually, he was quite persuasive as to what his Luton. His Luton looked really good. It was a curtain side Luton van, had a tail lift obviously, and it was a 22 plate, so 2 years old. It's in good condition. It's the first time I've seen a Luton in a good condition. And he was saying that he aims to get £1.60 a mile. Now, you don't know for sure whether someone's just bragging or whether it's realistic, but he's been doing the job for 3 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is sort of getting that sort of price for his work. He was well presented, he had a nice van, and I think he knows what he's doing. So I bet there are Luton drivers out there who would never change their van for anything else. And I can see why you could love it. I could learn to love a Luton if I was getting £1.60 a mile and I had space to park it, but I don't believe that I would get that much money, and so I'm happy with my size van. But anyway, my experience today did kind of mellow me slightly on the whole Luton idea. I don't think it's for me, but it's a good option for some people. So I was there to collect some items to take to Loughborough, and eventually I got off site, as I said, and I called the shipper to say that I'd been delayed a long time and I wasn't really in the mood for a confrontation, so I just said, "Can you stick a £5 on for my waiting time?" And he agreed to that. So I had £50 on this job in the end. The loaded miles, just so you know, was 21 going to, it wasn't Loughborough, it was Leicester, sorry. So Rugby to Leicester, sorry about that. And it was for a short wheelbase van, and I did get £50 in the end after the waiting time. I mean, I think from their point of view, they probably thought £50 is neither here nor there. We've got this load taken now. So I don't think, I think they had a good deal, but I wasn't going to argue for it anymore. Right, so I made my way to Leicester. It was really quite easy, apart from getting through Leicester itself. Leicester was quite busy, and the bit I was doing to was a one-way system, and the name of the company was slightly different from the name that was given on the CX system. But it was close enough for me to go in and say, "Is this you guys?" And it was. So I gave them their items and then got that all signed off, took a photo, and then just double checked that the shipper was happy and updated my price, and then I printed that all off. So now this was, what time was it now? Let me just think. It was about 12ish. Yeah, around about 12ish. So that's all done. So I still had a decent amount of day left to go. I put some bids on at my normal prices. So I was in Leicester now. Leicester again was a pretty good area. I think I may at this point have popped to the shop to get some comfort food again. I was quite hungry today, so I did that, and I stayed outside an Aldi. Yeah, I did, and then I put bids on, and I got a call as I was just eating my food outside Aldi, and it was a call that I received at 12:30, and it was the job that I put on, which I'd kind of gone. It's my kind of ideal job, really. It was going from Loughborough, which is what I kept saying Loughborough before, going to North Walsham, which is in Norfolk, and it's quite deep into Norfolk. And it's an area of the country. That trip from Loughborough to North Walsham, most of it I've done many times before. Yeah, from Peterborough to sort of Norfolk, I've done that loads of times, so it's all very familiar. And I put a bid on for 142 loaded miles of 150 for a small van job, because I'm going to a very quiet area and that'll be the last job of my day. And I got that pretty quickly. Very professional and polite call from the shipper, and they just told me what it was about. I liked the fact that they asked me my name, and they put in the CX booking, "Hi, my name. This is details of the job." So they kind of amended the CX booking to reflect they were giving it to me, which I thought was really good. A good little bit of work there. It was for additional information. It was 13 dead miles from Leicester to Loughborough, about half an hour's journey. So I arrived on site to pick up at about, I'm going to say, 2ish? No, 1:30ish. Having had the food and travelled there, 1:30ish. Picked up the items and then made my way to Norfolk. And I was quite tired at this point, and I was a bit concerned I'd make it, but I had a bit of food on the way. No, sorry, I had food. I think when I digested the food I'd had previously, about an hour before, we had to wake up a bit, so I had the window open a bit, and then I had to wake up. So it was a bit tiring, but in the end, no issue. And I got to North Walsham, and I got there at 5:05 and delivered their items. And just as I was arriving, the phone signal was really bad in that area. But guess what happened? Well, nearly. This is what actually happened. A job came up from Cromer for a long wheelbase van, picking up between 4:30 and 7:30, going to Grantham. And I bid on that job. It was 96 miles loaded. I put initially £150 on, 150, and then I thought better of it. I thought I'll put 140 on, because I'd do it for that. And I thought, well, I'll wait till that came up about half an hour before I got to North Walsham. So I thought I'll leave it on there until I get to North Walsham, and then I'll give them a call if it's still on there. But that job is amazing. You don't get those very often. For the sake of completeness, Cromer was 20 minutes or 10 miles from my drop-off location, and Grantham was half an hour from my home location. And it's a Friday after hours, and there was one other van in the area that was active, and it was when I first looked at it, it was a small van, and then later on another van came into view, which was a Luton. Right, so what happened to that? So I called them when I had finished offloading my load, but frustratingly, my phone signal was really dodgy, and the CX app was playing up. It just wasn't loading up. So I moved a bit, drove around a bit until I got a signal. Then I got through to them. There was no answer to the phone, but it was still on the CX, and my bid was still there. So now I have a decision to make. What do? I'm in North Walsham, which is middle of nowhere really. I can't stay here, and I could just go home. I could drive towards Cromer, I suppose. It's another option. See if I can do that, but that's not what I chose to do. So I just decided to drive home, but I put on my second phone a Google Maps direction to Cromer, because there came a point at which when I came across a main road that went north, I could have taken that or ignored it and carried on going home. And I thought I'd give myself to that road. By the time I got to the road, it was still 20 minutes to Cromer. But it was quite a fast route up. So I then did get through to the shipper. And this is the heartbreaking bit from my point of view. So it was all on CX still. And the shipper didn't think it existed. Couldn't see it on the system. So she said it either been sold or it was just out for a quote. If it's out for a quote, that'd be really cruel, I think. But it's still in the system now. My quote's still on there. I'm driving back from North Walsham now. So that could have been the end of an amazing day. But it's proved not to be. Anyway, my day has been alright today in terms of the money side. So let me see if I can tell you that. So my average fuel cost for fuel at the moment is still 14.99 pence per mile driven. Today I've driven 298 miles, 298, and I have worked for 12 hours exactly. What I will have done when I get home. I've earned from 3 CX jobs £285. That was the £85 for the morning's double run, £50 for my delayed trip from Rugby to Leicester, and then £150 getting me from Loughborough to North Walsham. My fuel cost today is £44.69, and that means that I've earned after fuel £240, 240. So my only good day was today this week. So I've got some stats for the week, and if you've been following my week so far, it's been pretty diabolical, which is the only decent day of working that I managed to achieve. So this week I've worked for 5 days. I've done a total amount of work in terms of time of 49 hours. I've driven for 1,224 miles, 1224. I've earned a grand total gross of £885, all from the CX, and actually all from the CX pretty much on the day that I was doing the job. I spent on fuel £186.63, which means that my net earnings after fuel is £698, 698 for 5 days work. My average pence per mile earned for every mile that I've driven is 57.64 pence, and my average earnings per day after taking into account fuel is £140. And then finally, for completeness, my hourly rate after accounting for my business costs this week is £6.09 per hour. shame that I didn't get that job from Chroma to Grantham at the end of the day. That would have been by far and away the best, most convenient job that I've ever come up across on the CX. From the sort of area that I was picking up from, at the time I was picking up from, and going to the place that's near my home would have been really, really fulfilling. But as it was, like every other day that I work, that job didn't appear. So the one day that it does happen, it won't be down to luck, it'll be down to just statistics. I think I will just finish off the video by sharing with you something that I learned yesterday about my brain, which has really helped me to understand a bit more. And I'm going to try to explain it in words, because that's all I have here really. But it's, in my head it makes sense, but it might not make sense to you guys. So, I've touched upon it before today, but it's this concept. I've worked out that when it comes to my subconscious, not my conscious, my subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a lie and not telling the truth, or omitting the truth, let's put it that way. Now, before I carry on, I know the difference. Consciously I know the difference. I know that a lie is different to me not saying something. I know that you have to go through life and choose the things that you say out loud. You can't just say everything that comes to your mind all the time, because that is not a way to communicate with people. Your brain has to filter out what's worth saying to which people and how you say it. But I've worked out that subconsciously, in my inner mind, a lie feels the same as me not saying something that I know is true. Which is why I think I get bombarded with distractive thoughts when I'm not saying something that I know is true when it comes into my head. And the only way I can deal with it is by saying it out loud, getting rid of it, or dealing with it in some way. And that, I think, leads to issues with knowing what to say and what not to say to people. I'll give a small example of how it affects me. If I did it in yesterday's video, I deliberately lied about one aspect of the video, and I knew I was doing it, and I thought I'll do it this way rather than what I usually do. So on one of the videos, it was probably one for Wednesday, the Wednesday video, I said today when I referred to that video, but I knew I was actually recording it the day after, and my head was going, that's a lie, you know it's not today, and they probably know it's not today. But I thought, for the sake of communicating what I was saying, if I said today, it made sense in the context of the video than trying to explain, oh, actually this is actually yesterday when this happened. And I get that all the time with my videos. That's why I have to say at the start, for the sake of this is recorded the day after rather than on the day of the recording of what I'm talking about. So by me omitting to say, so if I said, for example, didn't say today or recorded yesterday, but I knew I was talking about yesterday, and I implied it was today, my brain was going, you're lying, it's not yesterday, you're implying it's yesterday, actually it's today you're doing this video. And I have to learn to ignore that and carry on with the video. I don't know if I explained that very well, but it's just an example of where my brain gets distracted by what is effectively a little lie, or if I just admit it, it still gets equally as distracted if I don't bother saying anything about it. Which leads me to one last thing that I want to try and say. And I was thinking about, if you're listening or watching this video and you live with someone that's like me, I I've got some advice for you if you want it. And obviously not everybody is like me, but if you've got no idea, if you're having problems with someone with autistic traits, I think one way to try and deal with those problems is to deal with how one communicates. I think that someone with autistic traits communicates in a certain way, however they feel comfortable, and that isn't necessarily the way that society expects people to communicate. So I think learning how to communicate effectively with that person is probably a good starting point to sort of living with someone with autistic traits, and trying to understand, not necessarily understand what their brain is like, because it's hard to do that. I don't understand, for example, how the typical person's brain works. I thought I did. I thought I was a typical person for years and years and years. But then I realised how I think isn't how most people think. So I just cannot imagine what it's like to think the way other people do. But so I don't think you can understand what it's like necessarily, but what you could do is work out how can you best communicate. And I think for someone like me, focusing on effective communication is the way to kind of deal with the issues that autistic traits brings up. And it does bring up a lot of issues. I think anyone that lives with someone with autistic traits will know that there's a lot of problems doing that, living with that person. And I think my only advice is try to work out how you can both best communicate, bearing in mind the differences in how you both think. Right, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you very much for listening to my video. I may not be working on Monday. I've got an appointment on Monday afternoon, so I'll possibly have Monday off and start again on Tuesday. So look after yourselves, and I'll see you next week. Farewell, friends.